Hello, welcome. Thank you for having me, and hello to your listeners and viewers.
Joe, let's talk about what drew you to this particular story. Many would not have known about it. Had it not been for your expose, we would have just thought, think business as normal, business as usual in Mbombela. What drew you to the story? Who raised the alarm or the red flag for you to start paying attention to it?
Well, yeah, that's an excellent question. The person who raised the alarm wants to remain anonymous,
Okay.
but she reached out she basically emailed me and gave me a whole breakdown of what's going on. She presented video evidence, photos, and all that stuff, and she gave a very clear outline timeline of how and where this all started. And it's been a land invasion that's been happening for a few months, escalated in the past few months.
Hmm.
She was desperate, telling me that the SAPs are not doing anything; they just walk away. And there's a video that actually went viral online of this land invasion, where you see the police. It looks like they're trying to enforce some kind of law and also enforce the court order, but these land invaders just start shouting at them. And something very common when land invasions happen is that they usually have women and children present during these protests and these land invasions. And the
Hmm.
cops are very, very wary and cautious to, enforce any kind of aggressive tactics
Yeah.
to get the crowd under control, because they don't want to harm the women and children. And you can see in that particular video a woman walking with her baby on her back, and the police kind of see her and start stepping back. But unfortunately, this also creates frustration for the residents there, especially the owner of the plot of land that is being invaded, because they're supposed to. The SAPs are supposed to enforce the law, but it's every time they try and go, there's a reason why they can't. And we've heard reasons from it's a public liability to there's no real fencing, so we can't enforce the court order, even though you have a court order to enforce,
Hmm.
and other reasons such as they just live ammunition from the land invaders was being used against SAPs at one particular point as well, and SAPs just feels ill-equipped to handle the situation. So that's where everything started, and it's been escalating. And until now, the land invasions. I just got word a day ago, actually, over the weekend. They had to bring in the red ants, and the red ants are handling the situation. But the land invaders are there, and they were warning that they will be back. So yeah, it's ongoing as we speak.
Okay, I have some questions, Joe, because I'm just thinking, I mean, you speak about law enforcement, you've spoken so widely and openly around the permanent court order that was issued in the year 2021. How are the armed land invaders able to operate and do it so openly despite the permanent court order that was issued several years ago?
Well, again, this speaks to the, one can speculate whether it is just the incompetence of SAPs or maybe the corruption of SAPs. But the fact of the matter is that every time SAPs or POPs come in, they are intimidated for whatever reason and decide to not to do anything. That court order, and this speaks to the lack of law enforcement, because that's the crux, that's the heart of the matter right now, is that law enforcement is not being enforced. The law is not being enforced. And what happened at the very beginning is that these shack farmers were allowed to go onto the land. And when I say allowed, like, they went under the guise of darkness, most likely. And they just started quietly selling the land for 100 Rand here, 100 Rand there. And once you've got a few shacks, the PI Act kicks in. And then the shack farmers will then increase the price of 100 Rand to thousands of rands. And we've seen, or I was shown ads on Facebook promoting, buy land here, and just continuing the shack farming and stuff. And at some point, when you have a number of people, it becomes very difficult for the SAPs to enforce the law. And that's again why they had to go for that court order. And eventually the shacks were demolished. But the problem is that the land invaders keep coming back. The shack farmers keep coming back. And it's this constant wrestling between law enforcement and the shack farmers. This will go on for weeks, months. It's been going on for years at the moment, until one of them basically get the upper hand. And it's quite worrying that SAPS is not able to control the situation. They should be able to control the situation. But again, I think it speaks to, number one, the corruption in SAPS, but number two, also the incompetence. We all know that SAPS is not very well funded. They don't have a lot of cars. It takes them hours to get to a scene, even in this area. When residents would call, it took them upwards of 4 hours to finally arrive and control the situation. So yeah, it's an example of how the lack of enforcement and funding for SAPS struggle to enforce the law.
21 minutes after 2 p.m. Central African time, we'll continue our conversation with Joe Emilio about his Mbombela expose, telling the story of land grabs in Mbombela. Don't go anywhere.
Got something to say?